Welcome to CivilNet. I'm Salpi Ghazarian, and today we're speaking with Ms. Sunita Krishnan, who is an Aurora finalist for 2018. Ms. Krishnan, Sunita, welcome. Welcome to Armenia, welcome to CivilNet. You're from India, and for the last 25 years you've been doing God's work, difficult work. And you do it without making much allusion to your own personal history of violence, sexual violence. And you do explain, however, that that's what led you to do this work. If, of all of the things that you do, rescuing young girls, women, rehabilitating them, reintegrating them into society, of all of the work that you do, what is the one thing you do that you think is the most important?
I think everything that I do has its own importance in its own space. But the one thing that I do which is the most important is my advocacy work, because the rescue and rehabilitation and reintegration is something like a scavenging work that I do. I'm just cleaning the muck and the dirt of the society. But when I advocate with governments to bring in policies, bring in legislation, I'm putting a system in place for centuries.
And does that work? Is this something where you can see the impact of your work over these last 25 years?
I think so. But I cannot quantify it that way too, because at one end is the legacy I will leave behind in terms of the advocacy work that I will do. But it is also, at a one-to-one everyday life in my thing. The smiles I restore in the lives of my children and my girls that I've rescued. These are girls who have been raped thousands of times in a brothel. They have been sold, their soul, their mind, their body has been destroyed and completely demolished. And I have kind of resurrected them, facilitated a resurrection in their life. So, after all that they have gone through, when I am able to restore that smile on their face, that is also for me a daily success that I see, so that keeps me going. And when I see that smile, it is also a reminder for me that there should not be a child like this.
Talk about the advocacy some more, because in a country as large as India, the actual process of going from great idea to policy formation and then implementation must be incredibly difficult.
Yeah, the difficulty starts with acknowledging the problem itself. For years we have been, breaking our heads with our government to, and I'm not saying just about Indian government, but governments all over the world is the same thing. Issues like this, they don't want to acknowledge because this is bad name, this is shame for the country. You don't want to be, you want to hide it under your carpet. So for years it took us to even make the government understanding. In the process, people like me were vilified. We were called anti-nationals. We are bringing shame to our country by telling sad stories. To the extent, people have even accused me of telling sad stories to get funding. And it's another fact that I'm a full-time volunteer in the organization that I founded. So that's the level of denial that you're going. So after 25 years, it's only now that my government is acknowledging the problem and actually taking the first step to make it right. After 14 years of battle in the Supreme Court through a public interest litigation that I had filed, it's only now that we are in the process of getting a comprehensive legislation to combat trafficking, which means I will take I don't know how many more years to get it out as a legislation and get it implemented. But advocacy is putting systems in place for a longer time.
Are there men who collaborate with you, or is this a women's struggle? You're a petite woman, your feet barely touch the ground. Is this your cross to bear, your burden, or are there collaborators?
Yes, there are collaborators, and I'm blessed that a co-founder who started the organization with me was a man and a Catholic missionary, Brother Joseph Vetikatl. I'm a hardcore Hindu. He was a hardcore Christian, and it was kind of an interfaith collaboration. Thousands of men are part of this mission now. We have a movement called as MAD, Men Against Demand, and there are 100,000 men
against
demand. So what we are saying is, you know, the youngest child that I have rescued is three years old. So my point is that, you know, that child is there because some man wants to buy this child, right? So if there is no demand, there will not be any supply. And, you know, it's this demand that creates criminals, because they know, okay, there's somebody asking for it, so I will buy people, I will, you know, deceive people and ensure that this demand is catered to. So we've started engaging with men and boys and started creating a whole movement of men, whom I call them as real men, who don't believe a woman's body is for sale. They are not sex objects to be bought or sold.
Does it make sense to you? Does it hurt you, or do you feel better if I say to you that one of the great values for me of your story is that you are continuing to tell my grandmother's story? And so by working with you, by supporting you, that in some ways we have validated the stories of all of our grandmothers. Is that a good thing to say to you or a bad thing to say to you?
It's a most humbling thing to say to me, which gives me a huge connection to each one of you. And I know you're a kindred soul, and that makes me feel a sense of belonging, a sense of oneness with you. And as humanity, I'm more connected to you now than before.
Thank you. It's good to hear. Let me ask you a difficult question, a question that we in the media ask a lot. The stories that you have to tell, a 3-year-old sold because somebody has a demand for that sort of violence. How do we tell these stories so that people actually listen and own them and act on them, rather than saying, this is beyond me, it's too painful, and turning it off? What have you found that works?
I think if each one of us understand in this world of technology that, and CivilNet is about using this technology, that each one of us is equally vulnerable, and each of our children and near and dear ones are equally vulnerable thanks to technology, to be trafficked, to be in such exploitative condition, and understand that it can happen to us too, then it becomes very easy to relate to the story of this 3-year-old child or a 12-year-old child, because then it is not just about her, it could be us too. And also, if we also understand somewhere in our silence and in our inaction, we are actually supporting the crime. We are actually perpetrating the crime by creating an environment, an enabling environment of impunity. So today, more than ever, you need to speak up. You need to stand up, because if you don't do it now, tomorrow it can be somebody known to you and to your dear one. Don't wait till then, you know. So it is important that you reach out to not only me, but humanitarians like me across the world to stand up for such causes, because this is not about them. It could become us too.
In this work that you do every day at so many levels, the human level, the society level, the government level, where does an award, a prize, a program like Aurora fit? Why is it important to your work?
I think Aurora is much beyond a prize. It is the message that Aurora brings that gives strength to people like me. Aurora symbolizes a whole civilization which was nearly destroyed. resurrection of that civilization, adaptation, survival. This is a story of my children and my girls who die 1,000 deaths in the brothels, and you know, we bring them out and we give them a second chance in life. I think the Aurora story and the Aurora Prize is about that, you know, revival and that second chance in life, which is very symbolic to us. And so Aurora's Prize, more than anything else, is kind of a solidarity in humanity. And if for every humanitarian across the world who are doing what we are doing, this is something that we can hold on to, saying that we are not alone. There are people who believe in us, because the daily, you know, situation that we go through in our lives is 100 people telling us that we are not right, we are doing it wrong, and we should not be doing it, and another 1,000 people trying to wipe us out, you know, in million ways. And even after 25 years, I go through the same thing. So from murder charges to kidnap charges to everything under the sun is things. So in that space, you know, which is my daily reality, and Aurora's recognition is a strong message that I'm not alone. There's somebody who cares for what I'm doing, and there's somebody who is actually saying that you're doing it right, you know, and all of us require those signs to know that we are on the right track, and Aurora is that sign for me.
Thank you very much. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for sharing your stories, which I suspect must simply mean reliving them so regularly, but thank you.
Thank you so much.
We've been speaking with Sunita Krishnan from India, whose life work, whose mission is to save children, young girls, women, from slavery, trafficking, and sexual violence. She is an Aurora Prize finalist for 2018, and we're grateful for her time here at CivilNet. Thank you for following us at CivilNet.